You think you'll find another job at your age? Bradley Thornwood III laughed as he said it, actually laughed, like he'd told the funniest joke at a cocktail party. I stood across from his desk, resignation letter in hand, and watched him dismiss 27 years of my life with a single sentence. 54 years old, no degree, just a benefits consultant. He leaned back in his leather chair. Good luck out there, Evelyn. The job market isn't kind to women like you. Women like me. I could have been angry, could have shouted, could have reminded him that I'd built every major client relationship this company depended on. Instead, I smiled. Thank you for your concern, Bradley. His smirk faltered slightly. He'd expected tears, expected begging, expected the scared, desperate reaction he got from everyone else he pushed out. That's it? No negotiation? No plea to stay? My last day is Friday. I'll ensure a smooth transition. I turned to leave, tucking my resignation letter on his desk, since he hadn't bothered to take it from my hand. As I reached the door, I picked up the cardboard box I'd brought with me. Wait. I paused. What's in the box? I turned slowly. Bradley was staring at the box with sudden interest. It wasn't large, just a standard file box, but something about the way I'd carried it in, the way I'd set it carefully by the door, had caught his attention. These? I lifted the box slightly. Just some documents I need to process before I leave. What kind of documents? I smiled again, the same calm smile I'd worn throughout this conversation. Client transfer authorizations, signed. Bradley's face changed, the color drained. What? 15 of them, from our top accounts. I set the box down gently. They've chosen to follow me to my new firm, Bright Benefits Consulting. I registered it 6 months ago. Bradley stood up, slowly, like a man who just felt the ground shift beneath his feet. You can't. Those are our clients. They have contracts with Thornwood. They have contracts that include consultant of choice provisions, provisions I negotiated into every agreement specifically because I knew their value. I picked up the box again. Their contracts allow them to transfer with their designated consultant, which is me, for all 15 accounts. That's 60% of our revenue. 63% actually. I did the math. Bradley's face had gone from white to a sickly gray. You planned this. You've been planning this. I've been protecting myself. There's a difference. I walked toward the door. You should have been nicer to the woman who built your client base, Bradley. You should have been nicer to women like me. I paused at the threshold. Have a productive afternoon. I walked out. Behind me, I heard Bradley screaming for his assistant, for legal, for anyone who could stop what was already in motion. But it was too late. The box in my hands contained everything he needed to know about what he'd lost, and there was nothing he could do to get it back. Before I tell you how Bradley Thornwood III lost his company, and how a 54-year-old woman with no degree became one of the most successful benefits consultants in the Midwest, I want to pause. If you've ever been dismissed because of your age, if you've ever been told you were too old, too experienced, too expensive, if you've ever watched younger people with half your knowledge get twice your respect, this story is for you. We're building a community here, trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. Every single person who joins helps these stories reach more people who need them, people who are being pushed out, people who are being underestimated, people who are being told their best years are behind them. Hit that subscribe button right now. Be part of this. Because what happens next proves that experience isn't a liability, it's a weapon. Let me tell you how Bradley Thornwood III lost his company, and how a 54-year-old woman with no degree became one of the most successful benefits consultants in the Midwest. I'm Evelyn Price. I was 54 when Bradley Thornwood told me I was too old to matter. Married to Raymond for 32 years. 3 kids, all adults now. Marcus is 30, works in tech. Jennifer is 28, just finished her residency. And the youngest, David, is 25, teaching high school history and coaching basketball. We raised them while I worked 60-hour weeks, while I built relationships that would eventually be worth millions, while I became the person clients trusted with their employees' healthcare and retirement futures. I started at Thornwood Benefits Consulting when I was 27 years old, fresh out of a bad first job. No college degree, just a high school diploma and a determination to prove I was worth something. Bradley's father, Bradley Thornwood Jr., hired me. He was different from his son. Old school but fair. He valued hard work over credentials, saw something in me that others had missed. Benefits consulting is about relationships, he told me during my interview. People trust people, not companies. If you can build trust, you can build anything. I took that lesson to heart. Over 27 years, I built relationships with hundreds of businesses, small companies, mid-sized manufacturers, family businesses passed down through generations. Each one trusted me with their most important decisions. Healthcare plans that protected employees' families, retirement accounts that secured workers' futures, life insurance, disability coverage, compliance navigation, the unglamorous but essential work of keeping people protected. By the time I was 45, I managed Thornwood's 15 largest accounts personally, companies that had been with me for decades, companies that renewed every year not because of the Thornwood name, but because of my name. Bradley Thornwood Jr. understood this. He treated me like a partner, not an employee. Then he got sick. Pancreatic cancer, gone within 6 months. His son took over. Bradley Thornwood III was 42 when he inherited the company, MBA from a good school, 10 years of experience at corporate consulting firms, and absolutely no understanding of how relationship-based businesses actually worked. From day one, he started modernizing the company, which meant cutting costs, which meant pushing out experienced consultants in favor of cheaper, younger staff, which meant treating clients like numbers instead of relationships. Within a year, 3 of my colleagues, each with over 20 years of experience, had been forced out, traded for cheaper replacements. The retired early, pursuing other opportunities, the same polite lies used to hide the same ugly truth. They were too expensive, too old, too hard to control. I watched, I learned, and I started preparing, because I knew I was next. The first thing I did was understand my contracts. Every client agreement I'd ever negotiated included a consultant of choice provision, a clause that allowed clients to transfer their business if their designated consultant left the company. I'd put that clause in years ago, when I was young and still believed it would protect the company. If a consultant went rogue, clients could request someone new. Simple protection. What I hadn't realized then was that the same clause could work in reverse. If a consultant left, clients could follow. When I understood this, I started documenting every relationship, every conversation, every time a client told me they stayed with Thornwood because of me specifically. I also started having quiet conversations. If I ever left Thornwood, would you consider following me? The answers were unanimous. Evelyn, we're not clients of Thornwood, we're clients of yours. If you go, we go. Simple as that. I've been working with you for 18 years. My father worked with you before that. You're family. By the time Bradley started making noises about restructuring the senior team, I had written commitments from 12 clients. By the time he called me into his office to discuss my retirement options, I had 15, 63% of company revenue, signed, sealed, and ready to transfer. I also had a company, Price Benefits Consulting, registered 6 months before my resignation, licensed in 4 states, insurance certifications transferred, ready to operate. My youngest son, David, helped me with the paperwork. My daughter, Jennifer, reviewed the legal documents. My oldest, Marcus, built my website. Mom's starting her own company, David told his siblings, and she's going to crush it.
Raymond was supportive, of course. 32 years of marriage teaches you when to ask questions and when to just say, "I'm with you." "Are you sure about this?" he asked one night after I'd spent 4 hours on the phone with a business attorney. "I'm sure that Bradley is going to push me out. The only question is whether I leave on his terms or mine." "And the clients?" "They've told me for years that they stay because of me. Now we find out if they meant it." He kissed my forehead. "They meant it. Everyone who knows you means it." The morning I walked into Bradley's office with my resignation letter, I wasn't scared. I wasn't desperate. I wasn't the woman like me he thought he was dismissing. I was a 54-year-old professional who had spent 27 years building something valuable, and I was about to take it with me.
The week after my resignation was chaos for Bradley, not for me. His lawyers called my lawyers. They claimed the client transfer provisions weren't valid, that I'd somehow coerced my clients, that the whole thing was tortious interference. My attorney, a woman I'd helped with her company's benefits plan 15 years ago, laughed at them. "Your own contracts include consultant of choice provisions. Your client signed transfer authorizations voluntarily. There's nothing illegal about a consultant leaving and clients following." She planned this while employed by us. She prepared for a transition while employed. That's called being professional. Unless you can prove she breached her employment agreement, which she didn't, you have no case. They had no case. Bradley tried a different approach. He called my clients directly, tried to convince them to stay. That didn't go well. Martin Schaefer, owner of Schaefer Manufacturing, told me about his call. "This Bradley character phoned me personally, said you were unstable and the transition would harm my employees. I told him I'd worked with you for 22 years and you'd never been anything but exceptional." What did he say? He tried to offer me a discount on our premiums. I told him I didn't want a discount. I wanted Evelyn price. Then I hung up. Similar stories came from other clients. Bradley's attempts to retain them only reinforced their decision to leave. If this is how they treat someone who gave them 27 years, imagine how they'd treat us. By the end of my notice period, all 15 clients had formally transferred their business to Price Benefits Consulting. 63% of Thornwood's revenue gone. Bradley called me into his office on my last day. I expected anger, expected threats, expected one final attempt to hurt me. What I got was different. He looked tired, defeated. The arrogance from a week ago had evaporated. "How do I fix this?" "You don't. The clients made their choice." "I mean the company. How do I save it? Without those accounts, we can't survive." I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "You should have thought about that before you decided that experienced consultants were too expensive. Before you pushed out people who'd spent decades building relationships you inherited." I was trying to modernize. You were trying to cut costs without understanding what those costs paid for. The expensive consultants were the reason clients stayed. The relationships were the product. You looked at a relationship business and saw overhead. He had nothing to say to that. Your father understood. He built this company by valuing people. You destroyed it by treating people like line items. I stood up. "Goodbye, Bradley. I genuinely hope you learned something from this." I walked out of Thornwood Benefits Consulting for the last time. Behind me, I heard silence. No screaming, no threats. Just the quiet of a man realizing he'd destroyed something his father spent a lifetime building. Price Benefits Consulting launched officially on a Monday. I worked from a home office at first, just me, my laptop, and 27 years of experience. No fancy building, no support staff, just relationships. The clients didn't care about the office. They cared about service, and service was something I'd been providing for longer than some of my competitors had been alive. Within 3 months, I'd hired my first employee, Angela, a 52-year-old consultant who'd been restructured out of another firm. She brought 3 clients with her. "I heard what you did to Bradley Thornwood," she told me during her interview. "Every experienced consultant in the industry heard. Does that concern you? It inspires me, shows that we have value, that we don't have to accept being pushed out." Within 6 months, I had 4 employees, all experienced, all restructured from companies that didn't value them, all bringing relationships and expertise that younger consultants couldn't match. My children helped where they could. Marcus managed our website and technology. Jennifer provided occasional consulting on healthcare regulations. David helped with administrative work during summer breaks. Raymond became my unofficial business advisor. 32 years of marriage had taught him more about benefits consulting than he'd ever wanted to know. "You're working harder than you did at Thornwood," he observed one evening. "But it's mine. Every hour I work builds something I own, something I'll leave to our family, something Bradley Thornwood can never take away." By the end of year 1, Price Benefits Consulting had 22 clients. By year 2, 38. By year 3, we'd outgrown the home office and moved into actual space. Thornwood Benefits, meanwhile, struggled. Without 63% of their revenue, they couldn't sustain their overhead. Bradley laid off staff, closed satellite offices, tried desperately to rebuild a client base that his father had taken decades to develop. It didn't work. 3 years after I left, Thornwood Benefits was acquired by a larger firm, pennies on the dollar compared to what Bradley's father had built. Bradley wasn't part of the acquisition. The new owners wanted the remaining client list and the Thornwood name. They didn't want the man who'd destroyed the company's value. Last I heard, Bradley was consulting independently, which usually means unemployed and too proud to admit it. I don't feel sorry for him. Some lessons need to be expensive.
I'm 57 now, 3 years since I walked out of Bradley's office with that box. Price Benefits Consulting has 43 clients, 7 employees, revenue that exceeds what I ever earned in salary at Thornwood, and something I never had before, equity in my own future. I came home exhausted but kept going. I was building skills, building relationships, building a foundation that would eventually support not just me, but an entire firm. Raymond jokes that he's finally getting the retirement he was promised. "You said you'd slow down when the kids left home." "I said I'd work smarter. There's a difference. You're working harder than ever." "But I'm working for myself. That changes everything." He's right. The hours are long, the stress is real, but every challenge is mine to solve. Every success is mine to celebrate. Every decision is made by someone who actually understands the business. Last month, a young consultant from a competing firm reached out to me. She was 32, being pushed out to make room for someone cheaper. "I heard about what you did," she said, "how you took your clients and started over. I wondered if you had any advice." Build relationships that belong to you, not your company. Document your value, and never let anyone tell you that your experience is a liability. Did you know it would work out when you walked away? I thought about it, about that moment in Bradley's office, about the box in my hands, about his face going white when he understood what he'd lost. No, I didn't know. I hoped. I'd prepared as well as I could, but there's always risk. Then why did you do it? Because the alternative was letting someone who didn't value me decide my fate. I'd rather risk failure on my own terms than accept dismissal on someone else's. She's working for me now, brought 2 clients with her, learning that experience isn't something to hide, it's something to leverage. I think about Bradley sometimes, wonder if he ever understood what went wrong. He looked at me and saw a 54-year-old woman with no degree, saw someone disposable, someone who'd quietly accept whatever scraps he offered.
He didn't see 27 years of relationships, didn't see the trust I'd earned, didn't see the loyalty I'd built with clients who'd worked with me longer than he'd been in the industry. He saw women like me as problems to eliminate. He learned otherwise. Here's what I want you to take from this story. Your experience is not a weakness. Your age is not a liability. Your years of building relationships and developing expertise are assets that cannot be replicated by someone cheaper and younger. Bradley Thornwood thought he could replace 27 years of trust with a lower salary line. He thought clients cared about company names, not personal connections. He thought I was too old to matter. He forgot that in relationship businesses, the relationship is the product, and relationships live in people, not companies. I spent 27 years preparing without knowing I was preparing. Every client I served, every relationship I built, every provision I negotiated into contracts, all of it became the foundation for what I built next. You're doing the same thing right now, even if you don't realize it. Every skill you develop, every relationship you nurture, every piece of expertise you accumulate, it's all preparation for the moment when someone underestimates you. When that moment comes, and it will come, you'll have a choice. Accept their dismissal, believe the lies they tell about your value, walk away quietly and let them win, or pick up your box of client authorizations, smile at the person who thinks they've defeated you, and show them exactly what they're losing. Bradley asked what was in the box. The answer was simple. Everything he thought he owned but never actually controlled. 27 years of relationships, 63% of company revenue, the foundation of a business that was about to collapse. His face went white because he finally understood. Too late, but he understood. Some people never learn until the lesson is expensive. If you've made it this far, thank you. Really, thank you for listening to my story. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. We're so close. Every person who joins helps these stories reach more people who are being underestimated right now. People in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s. People being told their best years are behind them. People wondering if they should just accept the dismissal and fade away. They need to know that experience has value, that relationships matter, that the person who's been doing the work is often more important than the company whose name is on the building. Hit that subscribe button. Share this video with someone who's being pushed out, someone being told they're too old, someone wondering if they still matter. Tell them about the box. Tell them about Bradley's face. Tell them that 54 isn't too old. It's exactly the right age to have 27 years of relationships that belong to you. Drop a comment with your story, the time someone underestimated you because of your age, the moment you proved them wrong, the box you're preparing to carry out the door. I read every single one, usually in the evenings after a long day of running the company I built from nothing, the company that proved Bradley Thornwood wrong. You're not alone. We're building a community of people who refuse to accept dismissal. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. And remember, when someone asks what's in the box, make sure your answer changes everything. The look on their face will be worth it.